Hi, I'm Lisa Falk, Director of Education at the Arizona State Museum, and I'm here today with Allenroy Paquin, and he's a silversmith and jeweler from Jicarilla Apache in Zuni, living in Albuquerque, and travels around on the powwow circuit because he's also an accomplished dancer and storyteller and flute player and singer and man of many talents. But today we're going to talk a little bit about his jewelry making. Alan, can you tell me? I know you didn't start off as a jeweler. When you were growing up, what did you think you'd want to be, and what did you pursue at first?
I really didn't have much of an idea. I think I kind of started out as an artist, but because I experienced the struggle my dad had when he started out as a jeweler, it was something that I didn't want to pursue. So that's why I went off to get an education. Later on, his art took off and he became very successful at it. But by that time, I was already raising my own family. And when he passed on, my mother gave me his tools and lapidary equipment, and it was at that time that I started to dabble in it. And it took a hold of me, grabbed my interest, and from then it went into a hobby, then a part-time business, and eventually a full-time business. That's how I got into the art of jewelry.
And you're mainly a silversmith?
Right.
And can you describe a little bit of your process of working with silver?
Okay, basically what I do is, there's two methods that I use. One method is the tufa cast. This is a tufa block. It's like a tufa stone, or I forget the name of that, pumice, but it's more dense. And so, but it's still soft, so you carve your design in there, and you have to think in a negative way because you're looking at the back of it, and when you pour it, you're going to see the front of it come out the other side. And so when you carve this and put them together, you pour in your heated molten silver, and it takes that form. When you break it open, you can pull out the design, and you can get anywhere from maybe 2 to 5 cast on that, depending on how it's cut. The other method that I use is from sheet silver, and you can see how I can either lay out the design this way, or I'll draw the design on a piece of paper and glue that on there and then cut that out. From there, after the design is cut, you can see what I've done here. I stamp little lines and design into that piece and then file. And then from that point, you make your bezel for your stone, and this is the bezel here, and you just form that around the stone that you're going to use. You can see how I formed that to fit these stones here. And then from that point, you put some what's called flux, you put that on there, and you solder a little piece of molten solder on there, and that bonds it together. And then from that point, you just solder it on to the piece here. On the backs for these, these are going to be your pin pendants. So I've made a little bail out of just, again, sheet metal that I've cut and bent, and then I solder that onto there for the chain. And I also solder on these little pieces of the pin, which is a joint and a catch, and your pin will go in there. Once that's soldered together, you put it in what is called a pickle, and that's an acid that cleans the silver and it turns it white. And then once you take it out, you use some black oxidation, which turns it black and gets into your designs. And from that point, you buff it. It buffs all the blackness, the scratches, and it leaves a pure white silver form. But it also leaves the indentation, the design in there, is a little black oxidation that filled that in. You can see a finished piece here, and from this point I go to the buffer and buffer this out, and that brings the silver shine back. And that's your finished piece.
And I see you have some stones here. Now, do you buy these stones already polished and shaped, or do you cut them yourself, or what's your process with stones?
With stones, there's two methods as well. You can buy the stones pre-cut. They're called cabochons. They're cut to certain sizes, and those are easy to work with. When you do inlay, such as this piece here, you buy the stone in a rough, raw form, and you have to cut it to fit, and then again sand it. Different phases of sanding to get the shine back into those stones. So these are a Zuni, traditional Zuni method called inlay. And that's how those work.
Okay, and when you place the stone, either the
Cabochon.
when you place the cabochon or the rough cut stone,
Right.
do you use a glue or how do you keep them in there?
These you have to use a glue. It's a high epoxy glue that's very strong, and that holds your stone in there. So in order to get these stones back out, if you were to make a mistake or if one were to crack while you're putting it in, you'd have to soak that in some acetone or what they call it's called knock it loose, which loosens the glue and you can take it back out. When you use a cabochon like this for the bezel, you can see how there's teeth on that. So when you set it in there, you put a little sawdust in there to kind of cushion it and level that out. And when you push the teeth are what hold the stone in place. You can place some glue in there to make sure it doesn't come out. But for the most part, the bezel, the teeth on that will hold that stone in place.
Is there anything else you'd like to tell us about why you make jewelry and what it means to you?
Well, it keeps my connection with my culture. It also allows me to educate people about our culture, and so all that, there's always the need for education for people that are coming by and don't realize what we do. And as far as Native, they think that we're all just one tribe, one people, when in fact there are approximately 557 nations just in the United States. And so it allows us that opportunity to educate people and show them the difference among all the Native tribes.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.